Hey friends, Brian and Kayla. We want to have a conversation today about being flexible. I think it's one of the biggest parenting skills we can learn. One of the
Life
best
skills.
life skills in general, but I think we downplay how much being flexible is important in parenting.
Yeah, so there's three things that I want to share in this conversation with you, because three things that have changed the way I think about being flexible in my responding. Because most of us tend to be rather inflexible, right? Because this is the way we've always done it. So because we've always done it this way, we have to always do it this way. But early on in my professional career, I read a quote and it said, the 6 most expensive words in business are, we've always done it that way. And that really got my attention because we're pretty flexible when it comes to the world. We learn how to use new technology. We learn how to use new things. Social media giants launch new products, 1 million users sign up like in the first 24 hours. So when it comes to technology, we're pretty flexible. But when it comes to relationships, we tend to not be.
Yeah, we have these certain things that we've decided this is the way we do things. And not to say that we can't have boundaries and we can't have structure, but,
Yeah, absolutely.
but we have to have some flexibility in the way we do things based on the kids that are in our home. You know, when we just had one kid in our home, we could do certain things. You know, I remember we were much younger back then and we only had one kid in our home and we could go to a friend's house and take a pack and play with us.
Yep.
And when it was bedtime, we could put the little one down to sleep and we could hang out. You know, we were much more flexible. Then when we added a second kid to our family, we were like, well, we can probably still do that some. And we did a little bit, but then we had, we brought in a almost 4-year-old. And so putting a 4-year-old to sleep versus putting a baby to sleep at a friend's house, totally different thing.
We had to learn something different.
Yeah, we had to learn to do something different. And sometimes we had to say, hey, why don't you guys come over to our house after we put kids to bed? Because we were kind of the first of our friend group to really start having kids. And so we wanted to still be able to do things with our friends and hang out. But we had to flex in the way that looked. And we had to say no sometimes to, going out and doing certain things because we had kids, or we had to hire a babysitter to come over and watch the kids, or, and we couldn't just say, well, we've always gone out with friends on Friday nights.
Yes.
And so now that we have children, right? That makes sense to people. People realize when you have kids, you have to change. But then when we start parenting, we're like, well, but we've always had the kids do this, this, and this, and why would we do anything differently now?
And so one of the things that I was thinking of while you were talking is it's not just us who has to be flexible, right? We've required, I guess, for lack of a better word, our extended family to be flexible, right? Like because of some of the particular needs of some of our kiddos. I'll just cut that. Because of some of the needs of our particular kiddos, we've had to have more and more family events at our home.
Yes.
Right, and so we typically have Easter at our home. We typically have some version of Thanksgiving, but as you might imagine, that Thanksgiving's celebrated more than once on both sides of the family. The grandparents have been pretty hardcore in insisting that Christmas is at their house, and we're flexible.
Right.
We let them have that one. But here's the thing, right? Oftentimes when I've looked at my children and I've been frustrated by their responses, like you're so inflexible, you're just like basically just fold your arms and you say, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I have to realize, am I modeling being flexible?
Yeah.
Or am I modeling folding your arms is the way to go?
Well, I think, sometimes we talk about, saying yes more often to our kids, right? And I think that's one way that we're able to be flexible, because a lot of times we say no to our kids because, well, we're lazy. We don't want to do it a certain way.
I'll take that.
Or busy and we don't want to stop what we're doing and do something different, I think oftentimes it's our inflexibility that says no to our kids. not what we tell ourselves it is, which is, oh, it's for their own safety, or it's because of time constraints, or, it's really our inability to be flexible.
Yep.
Because we're like, no, we do this and then we do this. And, we talk about compromises. A compromise is just a way of being flexible with our kids. We say it's time to turn the television off, and our kids say, can we have a compromise? Well, if we're going to be rigid, then we say, no, I said turn the television off. But if we're going to be flexible, we say, what's your compromise? And we listen to what they have to say and reflect, because what's important, the rules or the relationship.
Yeah.
And I think we want it to be relationship.
Yeah,
and so not to say we don't have rules, it's just to say that the rules can be flexible, or there are ways to, our routine can be flexible. Things can be flexible in the way we go about it, but it's a fine line. It's a balancing act, I think, in that flexibility of, we don't want to just throw all the rules and routine out the window, and have none of that. But we also don't want to be so rigid and, this is the only way we can do things. So finding that balance can be a challenge sometimes.
Well, I think the thing that I had to learn was there are certain things you can't flex on.
Yeah.
The kids want to play in traffic, that's an automatic no. It's going to be a no every single time. Okay?
Seems obvious. Yeah.
Right? But there are other things that you can be flexible. You can be flexible on, right? We do with the kids, screens off at a certain time. Well, what happens if we told them to watch a movie, and then by the time it's time for screens to go off, there's 20 minutes left in the movie? We don't say, turn the movie off. We said this time, you say, you're not done with the movie. How much time's left? Yes, of course you can finish watching it. Now, the problem with being flexible is that, we've had people tell us over the years that means the kids are running the house.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. And the reason that I feel comfortable saying that, because in our experience, that has not been how it works. You don't want to be a permissive parent. Everybody knows the research and why that's a bad idea. You don't want to parent your children in a way that they'll just like you the best, that they will like you the best. I said just like you, but I thought maybe that sounded like dislike you. So you don't parent your kids in a way that they will like you. But I think that one of the things that I've personally learned over the years of raising all those kids is that if I can parent my kids in a way that they firmly believe that their dad's a reasonable guy, that's a win for me.
Well, because we want them to realize that we have their best interest at heart.
Yes.
And if I'm being rigid and inflexible, then all they see is rigid and inflexible. But if they come to me and they say, hey, I know that my curfew is 10 o'clock, but my friends want to go to a movie at 9 o'clock, and I know it's not going to be over at 10, so can I come home when the movie's over? Rigid would say, no, your curfew's at 10 o'clock. We're not shifting on that.
Yeah.
But flexible would say, sure, that sounds reasonable. Come home when the movie's over. Or how long is the movie? And then they say, oh, it's a 3-hour movie. And you're like, I think we might need to see an earlier movie, right? I mean, it looks different at different ages and different stages. Some people, have little bitties, which, when we had little bitty ones, bedtime was not flexible. Like what time we went to bed wasn't flexible.
Something our oldest points out constantly.
He does. But what was flexible was the order in which we did things. It was like we could be flexible on, if we brush our teeth first, or if we have a story first, or if we get our jammies on first. But we weren't flexible on the time because we knew our kids needed their sleep. They had to be in bed at a certain time. That was necessary for them, right? So that's how we can be flexible in certain areas and not in others. But I think it's, I've had parents over the years go, well, when I give in this area, then they expect me to give in every area, and then they're not able to accept my no in this area or whatever. But I think that's kind of a lie we tell ourselves, because we've decided that if we do this, then they won't respect us, or they won't listen to our rules if we flex in this one area. But our experience has always been that the more we're flexible, the more they're able to take the no when we say, we have to be in bed by this time, or whatever it is.
Well, and the other thing I want to say about that is that the more we're flexible, the more that they realize that they can come and ask for compromises, they can ask for something different. and they tend to be less sneaky
Yep.
because they're going to do what they want to do.
Yep.
And so if we'll work with them, we'll be flexible. Then I think that's a real win, and we've seen it in our family that it's a real win. You know, I was thinking while you were talking, why are we so inflexible, right? I mean, just think about the culture in our country, right? Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. Bruce Springsteen, no retreat, no surrender, right? I mean, William Barrett Travis in Texas famously drew a line in the sand at the Alamo, right? We do these things all of the time, but it doesn't serve us well in our relationships, and particularly doesn't serve us well in our relationships with our children. So, in closing, I'd just like to say, be flexible, you're going to be fine. We're still here and we're doing it. Thanks for watching.